What's up, guys? We're back for another episode of Twins Talk Tubi. I'm here with my wonderful sister Sandra.
Hi.
Hello, sis.
Hello.
So we're back talking about a new Tubi movie. Well, not a new Tubi movie, but a new watch for us. And this month, as we've been discussing, we've been talking about documentaries that are on Tubi. And this is the last Tuesday of the month. And the last documentary that we saw is called Famously Haunted Amityville. And this documentary is all about what happened at the Amityville house, famously from the movies, all the movies, the books, etc., etc. So,
And the newspaper and the news because it was a true
yeah,
story.
it was a big story all over the place, the news that turned into books and movies, etc.
Yes.
Right. But for now, we're going to start with our first time reactions as always. So we'll go on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I thought it was good.
Me too. I liked it.
I thought it was really, it was a perfect documentary, I thought. Oh, by the way, so this documentary came out in 2021, right? And, the Amityville horror, how the movie was called, but, the horror from Amityville happened in Amityville, New York, where,
Yes, this is like the most, I think this is like the most famous like horror movie or story from the state,
oh,
our
yeah,
state
oh,
of New
yeah,
York.
yeah. And
So
yeah, exactly. And so a family moved into the house, and I'll just kind of a quick recap. A family moved into a house. It was a parents, and they had 5 kids, and
5 kids, yes.
they had 5 kids, and they,
The
lived.
DeFeos.
Yes, and they lived there for a while. And the story is that the oldest son, killed the entire family because a demon made him do it. Someone was
He
speaking
heard
to him and
voices.
heard voices, and the voices told him to kill his family. So that's what he did. He went to jail for it. He had about 6 life consecutive life sentences, and that was that. So the documentary was cool because they had a lot of backstory on the family.
Yeah, I like that because we kind of like if you've seen the movies and you know about the story, you hear, like the names and things like that, but I didn't know certain things. Like obviously it's from New York, they're in Amityville, that's on Long Island. That the family came from Brooklyn, I think.
I believe so, yes.
I think the family came from Brooklyn and they moved, they bought a house there and is a very well-to-do area. Um, and they were kind of like living the dream. They bought a house and everything, and then all this, crazy shit happened there.
But apparently the DeFeos, well, the father was a very mean
And abusive.
and abusive, and he would abuse his wife and especially the oldest son,
Yeah.
right? The oldest son who was accused of killing them all. He tormented him and beat him and verbally abused him, all that. Um, but you know so the documentary, they spoke, there was some you know investigators that were talking about what happened in the house and that day when everything was found. Even some people that it was like some neighbors,
Neighbors that lived
yeah,
there, yeah, that
that
knew
lived
the
down the
DeFeos.
street, and they knew them, and exactly, and that when they found out what happened, that night or the next morning or whatever, when they found out that everyone in the house was dead, and you know everything that happened in the neighborhood when the cops and everyone
The
came.
reporters and
Yes. So they showed a lot of that, and they talked about a lot of that, which was nice to see, like the firsthand impressions and the firsthand information from.
yeah, people that were actually there that lived in the neighborhood that knew the family,
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of the reporters that actually reported on the story
Yes.
when it happened. So that was interesting to hear from them, the reactions from people, how everyone was feeling, etc.
Yeah.
That was nice to know. They try and then they had a lot of like YouTubers and
Yeah.
TikTokers, I guess you should say, that would that put TikToks and YouTube videos out about what happened there, and it's the true crime podcast, things like that, and they would talk
Right. Like
about,
going to visit the
yeah,
house
exactly,
and talking about the whole story. Yeah.
right, and kind of and some like paranormal investigators that would
Yeah.
go try to see if they could feel some presence in the house, things like that.
Right.
So and they talked about how they were showing a picture of the house back then, and they showed a picture of the house, I guess in 2021 when they were, recorded this, and how some of the windows are different shape. They try to change the exterior a little bit to try and get people not to think that this is the Amityville.
Because because the story brought so many people there just to see the infamous house,
Right,
and it was just a madhouse there
right,
for the other people that lived there. So
right,
they tried over the years to try and change the way it looks, so and kind of disguise it,
right.
but everybody kind of knows by now because this happened in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So, was that 40, 50 years? Um, People and all the with all the movies that happened and all the and the books and all that stuff, um, everybody pretty much knows about it. And if you want, even if you don't, if you want to, it's easy enough to find out
Yeah,
they mentioned the
they
address like
mentioned, yeah.
a bunch of times
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So they also talk about the Lutzes, who the movies, the original
The original.
Amityville Horror was focused on the Lutzes, who actually years later moved into the house. Um, and then George, who was the father, the husband, was the one that was getting the voices in his head and was getting all crazy and and it seemed like he was gonna had the like the feeling that he needed to kill the family and stuff. And they also show the Lutzes, like they had some footage of them,
Yeah, there's some photos
um,
and some videos.
and some interviews with them, and they talked about how they tried to kind of capitalize on it to make some money, as far interviewing and like writing a book and things like that. Like they were trying to get some money out of it, um, because they were in the house, they lived in the house, and they felt so they say they felt everything that uh Ron DeFeo Jr. felt in that house that made him kill his family. But the Lutzes got out, so they were able to tell the story. So they talk about that family too, which was nice because
Right.
between between the DeFeos and the Lutzes, I don't think they had anybody else move in there, right? It doesn't seem like they tried to sell the house, but obviously because of what happened.
Well, people already.
But just like the movie, the Lutzes were looking for a house, and it was a beautiful house, and the price was right,
Right.
and but then all the shit happened, whatever. But apparently, since then, a lot of families have lived there and moved out and lived there, and I believe there's a family that lives there now. And doesn't seem like anything else has happened in that house, or at least we haven't heard about it. I feel like we would have heard about it because it's Amityville if something actually happened. But
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, what struck me a lot was towards the end of the documentary, they had video interviews with Butch DeFeo, right? Ron DeFeo Jr.
yeah,
Butch, right? In prison.
in prison, yeah,
And he started to say, what he says really happened. And basically
yeah,
what he said was that his lawyer, when he was on trial, his lawyer told him to lie and say that it was a demon that told him to do all that stuff, and it was in his mind and everything to get that insanity defense. And from there, we could use that to
to
get books and movies and things done so we could be famous and and all of that. But Butch DeFeo says that the true story is that his sister, the oldest of the girls, wanted to leave the house. She because there was, a lot of traumatic experiences, a lot of abuse in the house, and
Yeah.
she wanted by the father, right? And she wanted to leave. And then obviously the father was like, "No, you're not going anywhere." And he didn't want her to leave, and she came up with the idea about shooting that.
Yeah.
And and Butch DeFeo says that the sister was the one that killed everyone. And then he heard the gunshots and he went to find her or see what's going on, find her, and he found her, and she had the gun and he took the gun away
And
from
she
her.
has shot at, and she has shot
Yes.
the parents and her
And the
siblings.
kids. Right. And he had got wrestled the gun away from her and then he shot her to get her, to stop, you know. And I was like, cause I don't think I've ever heard that.
I've never heard that either.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And then they started talking about that it's a possibility that that is the story because the way the bodies were and the way things were kind of, it looked like things were staged. That's what they said, because they said that the family or most of them were not in bed when they were shot.
Right.
They were shot somewhere else, and it was staged and they were actually put in their beds. And even that Butch DeFeo picked up the shell casings after. So if you're not in your right mind and someone is kind of directing your brain to shoot these people, you're not doing that. You're just shooting people and that's it. And maybe you'll wake up and say, oh my God, what have I done? But
Right.
so they go into that towards the end, and I was like, oh, that's kind of wild if that's what happened. Um, and then they mentioned also later that Bush DeFeo was
He
died
died in
that he
prison.
died in prison, yeah. So, but I thought this was a really good documentary. I enjoyed.
A lot of very informative. Um, you know, they had a good combination of just the actual story and then like old clips and old
Yeah,
pictures
yeah,
and people that were actually there too.
yeah, yeah.
Um, really, really, really good.
Hmm.
Really good. If you guys get a chance, definitely check this one out. It was a good one. If you're a fan of the Amityville horror and the actual Amityville story, this is a good documentary to watch.
Hmm.
Very good.
Yeah. Just let us know if you watched it or you're gonna watch it. Let us know in the comments below what you thought, and we'll be back next week for another episode.
And subscribe to the channel,
Oh yeah,
please.
make sure we are part of the Horror Flick Chicks, so you can find these videos and others on the Horror Flick Chicks YouTube channel. So make sure you go there, you like our videos, and you subscribe to our channel. You can also follow the Horror Flick Chicks on Instagram and Facebook. And we also have a podcast if you'd like to check that out. We have video podcasts here on YouTube, and we also have it streaming on several audio platforms. So check us out. Tell us what you think, and we'll keep coming back with more content. So until next time, I will say peace out from Sonia and Sandra, the twins. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.